So I'm late to the game, but I finally have just read my first Shirley Jackson book, and that was We Have Always Lived in the Castle. And so this was I wouldn't really call it a tag, it was more of a book challenge, and I was challenged by Rod Gilly. I will link their video down below if you want to check out the original video. And there was a handful of books that I was challenged to read, and this is a book that I've been meaning to read for quite some time. The Shirley Jackson book, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. As someone who likes horror, I feel like I should have done this sooner. What a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. It was so atmospheric and emotional, and the writing, you know, like sometimes when you get into those books that you're like, they're a little bit older, and this I would consider a classic. You know, sometimes it's just hard to get into them. Like some of like Charles Dickens' old books are just really a slog. You're like, ugh. You're trying to make yourself read it just because it's a classic and you feel like you should. Like, I didn't feel that way about this at all. I really enjoyed reading it. I really liked the characters. I had super anxiety reading it too, just like because of what was happening and like how the townsfolk looked at these two girls who lived on this property. So it's the story of Mary Cat and Constance, or Mary Catherine. The townsfolk hate them. Like, they were this rich family, and I guess the parents were super snooty and uppity and had a lot of money and looked down on people, you know, looked down their nose. And so yeah, they were kind of like those rich a-holes that everybody hated. And so that hatred continued on towards the daughters, and then the family was all killed. They were poisoned, and it's kind of a mystery of like what actually happened. And you know, all the fingers were pointing at the one daughter, and there was like a whole court case, and she was acquitted and whatnot. So there's a lot of just hatred towards this family. And it's the story about these girls trying to continue on, them and their uncle, who is in a wheelchair, and he's kind of delusional, and he's writing down the story of what happened and kind of like investigating it, and that's all he really talks about and focuses on. And it's such a creepy, atmospheric, just really beautifully written. And then, you know, you have some of the parts that are really like intense. There's a part that there's kind of like a mob of people at one point, and just how people behave, that like mob behavior, that's so just disturbing. So it was like disturbing on different levels of what happened, the psyche and like emotions going on with the girls and with the townsfolk and all of that. Just a really fantastic read. I do want to read more Shirley Jackson in the future. This book came out in 1962, and she has, I believe, like 6 other books that I do want to get to at some point. There's so many books I want to read that hopefully I will get to. Sometimes it's really hard to prioritize, but I really did like that quite a bit. And it's not a super long book. It was definitely under 200 pages. So I like the writing. I like the characters. I like the atmosphere, even though it gave me anxiety. And I was like, what's gonna happen? And when the big traumatic stuff had happened in the past, and then when it happens in the present, and just like how they handle it, the girls, it was very sad and beautifully written. And I highly enjoyed it. If you haven't had a chance to read anything by Shirley Jackson yet, this was a good one to start with, I think, because I really liked it, and I feel like she contributed a lot to early women in horror, so a good one to definitely read. I feel like I'm totally late to the party on this one, but hey, better late than never, right? So if you are a fan of horror books, next video coming up will be about another horror book, so stick around, check it out. And if you had fun hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.